Feminist charlatan, more than I bargained then. I say I think women have cocks and that men look good in frocks, but I'll sell my arse on OnlyFans and claim that it's a feminist friend. But I've sold out to any who pay. That's the modern feminist charlatan's way. I'm a feminist where men go first. You see that I'm the worst. No wonder I'm so bitter. My feminism made life shitter. I wanted to sell out every girl for the magic of a man in her space. I wanted to make every last woman feel that I'm just a fucking disgrace. Feminist charlatan, more than I bargained and I say I think women have cocks and that men look good in frocks, but I'll sell my arse on OnlyFans and claim that it's a feminist friend. But I've sold out to any who pay. That's the modern feminist charlatan's way. Men can enter our spaces. We have no right to object. If you speak for women's rights, your career can just get wrecked. Girls in the boxing ring goes the race. Have a man in your changing room with a grin on his face. Don't be a bigot when he shows his dick. Don't feel so scared that you claim to feel sick. Feminist charlatan, more than I bargained and I say I think women have cocks and that men look good in frocks, but I'll sell my arse on OnlyFans and claim that it's a feminist friend. But I've sold out to any who pay. That's the modern feminist charlatan's way. Men can enter our spaces. We have no right to object.
Hi, the devil are you? Good afternoon. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends. Isn't it great? So anyway, I was a while ago, I came across somebody called Bel Priestley. I didn't know that was his name at all. Never heard of him. In fact, when I was looking into him, I thought he was that Welsh schoolboy that was featured on a program. Maybe he is. I don't know. I haven't really looked into him. I think what's really interesting about this person is that they are totally captured by the language. Their body is totally irreversibly harmed. Their voice is harmed. They've had face surgery. They've had all different sorts of surgeries. They are probably very, very, very far down the road that it would be very difficult to abandon that particular trajectory. He's only 21. And I feel quite like I do feel sorry for him, even though he uses women's spaces. I'm pretty sure he uses women's spaces, and he's lauded by all the wrong people. Anyway, but he was in a cab. I think it was him. I mean, many of these men look the same, don't they? But I think it was him in the back of a cab, and he saw me and the women at the Let Women Speak nursing and midwifery counts. So anyway, today he came across my timeline on YouTube, and I thought it would be really interesting to have a listen to him. And he couldn't be a finer example as to the homophobia and the harm that trans activism does. Like, he's such a good example. And I, he talks about his journey, why he thinks he's not a boy. And he talks about these things in an interview with the McVitie's heir. I can't remember his name. James. Anyway, let me just remind you of activism can look beautiful. Just saying. It's such a. I'm so great at this. Even if I do say so myself. So it says woman on one end, and these are all Venus symbols. These are all women. And then on the other end, it says adult human female. It's great, right? It's great. Oh, thanks, band. Oh, I haven't seen, probably have seen you for ages, but thank you, as always, Band United, and Rebecca. But thank you to Band United, who is just such a darling. Okay, so let's have a look at this guy, and we'll look at him together. We're not going to do the whole video because I often do too long a video. So we're going to start. He's in a program, I think, on Netflix. I don't know what the program is. I'm not intrigued to say. I think the most interesting thing about him is what he says about himself and his feelings, and some of the relatively hilarious things he says about women and women-only spaces. And this is what's being sold to these young men, these young, often young, flamboyant gay men, right? This is the lie that's being sold.
Trans women are getting their hormones delayed. So with the whole situation with the NHS now, it's different. Like, you can be waiting for like 7 years to get your first appointment to go on hormones. If I went to the GP and said, can I get a blood test? They're allowed to say no. The government are not condoning people transitioning, really.
What do you mean they'll refuse a blood test for you?
That's really not good, because obviously you don't have any way of producing hormones, so you have to take artificial hormones to survive.
Wow.
To survive. Like, even that, to survive. Survive what? The night? But even that, it's all that sort of language. So we're going to start at here.
Why?
Dating was an absolute nightmare.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, he just ended up being a bit transphobic about like 8 months into the relationship. Yeah.
So this is him talking about how difficult it is to actually date. And by the sounds of it, he had a relationship for about 8 months until the man made it perfectly clear that he knew that he wasn't a woman. And then he sort of calls it transphobic. But most of us, like, it might not be you, but most of us, what we want to find in our lives, how we envisage our lives, is that we meet someone. Like, I'm a heterosexual woman, so I meet a man, I fall in love, we get married, we have children. I didn't do it in that order. I had children, then we got married. But you meet someone that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Like, that's what most of us are hoping for. And very sadly, he sort of acknowledges at 21 that that's unlikely to happen for him, because, as he says it, he's trans. But because he's put himself at an age where he couldn't possibly comprehend this, he's put himself in a category of people that are just really, really unlikely to find a suitable pairing that is a meaningful and substantial kind of partnership.
Yeah, it was so bad. When the whole like women's only gym thing happened,
Yeah.
he was saying like it's such a good thing, like women claiming their spaces. I went, all right. And then also it was like International Women's Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, he put on a story like, celebrate your woman, like make her feel special. I thought, it's my time to shine.
Just pause it there. Is anyone actually convinced that this man remotely is female? Because he gives off, and I've watched some older videos this morning, and I was going to play them, and then I thought, actually, this is not what this isn't. Is supposed to be a complete character assassination of this man. It's supposed to be a comment on what this man represents. So I haven't included any of his younger stuff, but if I just say that you won't be surprised to find out that he was a really effeminate, completely just read as a effeminate gay teenager. That sadly, and he talks about it in a minute, couldn't find a decent enough kind of foundation or whatever to just go with it, just to be a gay man.
Yeah, no text, no call. And then it got to the end of the day and I was like, oh, like, hi, it's me, hello. And he was like, yeah, sorry, I didn't think it applied to you because you're trans. Like, you know, it's just about
Wow.
celebrating like natural women. I went,
Yeah, shocking. It's totally shocking, right, Jamie? Okay, so these are his views on the Supreme Court judgment.
yeah.
Because the Supreme Court has
Basically, they ruled that legally trans women are now seen as men.
No, they said that legally you've always been seen as men. Actually, legally, totally, you've always been seen as men. They just clarified it because some people were pretending that that wasn't the case.
So basically, trans women aren't women in the eyes of the law. But it was an act done by the Supreme Court, which the government didn't necessarily need to take. So the way I understand it is the government kind of like taken it as like they can act upon it how they want to.
Mhm.
And I think it's kind of given.
No, because it's the law. The government can't go against the law. Like the law is beyond anything the government can change without doing a statute and a change of law through legislation.
The government leeway to do what they want now, which is to sort of like exclude trans women from certain spaces and so stuff like toilets and stuff and women's changing rooms, etc. But it kind of becomes like it's one thing that everyone's talking about, which I think is important to mention. It's kind of deep rooted misogyny because no one's talking about trans men. It's all about trans women.
Yeah, let me just explain that to you, Belle, because I think you're suffering from what we call idiocy on this point. The reason we are worried, women are worried about men coming in our spaces, is you're right. There is misogyny. It is to do with misogyny, but it's to do with the misogyny of a man thinking that just because he says he's a woman, that he has a right to our space. It would be that sort of misogyny. The reason men aren't campaigning to keep tiny women out of their spaces is because historically, actually, present day, in every single scenario, it is very, very rare that a man would be frightened of a strange woman, frightened of sexual assault, voyeurism, low level, sort of spying, indecent exposure, those sorts of things. It would be really, really unlikely that a man would feel afraid with a woman in his space, no matter how that woman identified, whether she's got taken testosterone, cut her breasts off, whether she just looks like me, whatever. It's very unlikely that a man will be afraid. Whereas you coming into my space would make me feel uncomfortable, would make most women and girls feel uncomfortable because you read, like all of you and your the men that call themselves women, you all read as men. We see you as men. So that's why you're right that it's about misogyny, but you're totally wrong that it's about misogyny and women and those trans men are ignored. It's about misogyny, which is why you think you're entitled to come into a woman's space.
And it just means that it's going to become a lot of like who looks the most feminine, who looks the most cis, because there's a lot of women that don't look like, you know, I might look more cis to like a cis woman.
No,
like
you don't. You look like a man cosplaying a woman. And that might come across as quite mean, but just everything about you reads man. Like, there's not very many women with heads that big. There's not. And you look probably like you're quite tall. I don't know how tall you are, but you look like you're probably a lot taller than most women. But even if you didn't, and even with all that surgery, just even the way you walk, the size of your skull, the size of your hands, like these are things women don't look at someone and say, "Oh, how big is her skull? How big is her what about her hands? What about her leg?" We just can read it in seconds. And I think you would, to most women, you would read like you're a man.
And when you say cis, what do you mean by that?
So cis is just like someone that's basically born the gender that they are. So
Yeah.
it's but also I love how like don't call me cis. It's like a word from I think it's like it's been around for like thousands of years. Like
Yeah, okay, but don't call us cis because we're just women, and we don't need a prefix because that would be misogyny, wouldn't it? To tell women how we must be named in order for you to feel better, that would be real misogyny, wouldn't it? Terrible.
No one's calling you a slur, like, you're fine. So, yeah, basically, it's going to become a bit of an interesting
Position,
situation.
right?
Yeah,
Because
because
it's
how
so.
do you police it?
How
This
do
is
you
what I
police?
would.
Well, you just stay out. That's how you police it. You rely on men to stay out of women's spaces.
It? And the thing is, you're so right. It's interesting that you talk about misogyny there because no one is talking about trans men.
No,
And so that's then
I know,
becomes an
because
issue.
then you say like, oh, well, trans men will have to go into women's spaces, and people are like, no, obviously not. Like, they're men.
No, nobody says that. We say, well, some women say we don't care. I say if they've altered themselves into a point where they make women afraid, I couldn't give a shit where they go, to be honest. I know that sounds terrible, but all I'm interested in is the threat that men pose in women-only spaces. And if women that call themselves trans, if women who dress up as men, if they want to go in men-only spaces, that's men's business, and they can run that particular gauntlet. So, no, not many women say, "No, they're men." Nobody thinks a 5'2" woman with a wispy beard with her breast cut off is a man.
So it's like, but trans women aren't women because you're not letting them into women's spaces. So it doesn't really add up.
That's because you just made it up. So that's why it doesn't add up.
And like, healthcare is getting harder. Like, it's going all bit downhill. And like, also, I think
So to be compassionate, the sad thing about this is when he was pretending to be female, when he started doing that, kind of when he discovered it online, which he talks about, when he discovered it, there was this kind of golden ticket into club womanhood that he was sold, that he would be accepted in, and he could actually use all of our spaces, and he would be seen as a woman, and people would be forced to use language that described him as a woman, and lawfully he would be allowed in women-only spaces. Like, he was sold that particular lie. And for him and other men his age who have now pretend to be women and now finding out that actually there is a really hard no that they're coming up against, and they continue to come up against, and it's not that easy. And this victim cloak thing, people are just going to get so bored of that so soon that he's just going to be left a mutilated face, a face that he's probably had his bone shaved, vocal cords that he's had altered, a body that he's had altered. I don't know if he's had his penis cut off and his testicles severed. I don't know whether he's had breast implants. I have no idea about anything else about him, but I know that coming back from this irreversible harm, this path that he's been on, is going to be really, really difficult. And so, you know, I hope he has a lot of help and support, because that time is coming where he realizes that sacrificing all to look as much like a woman as he can, not to be a woman, but to look as much like a woman as he possibly can, that is going to be devastating for him when he realizes it's actually never, ever going to happen. And it doesn't mean any more than maybe appearing more like a woman. That's it. That's what transition means, that you look a little bit more like a woman.
people are following suit from America, and like, I think now New Zealand is now like following suit of what the UK is doing. It's all just a bit like much.
When I saw it, and I was pretty shocked, right, by the whole thing, because it feels like we're kind of really progressive, and we've taken steps back in a.
This man, right? I don't know how. Well, I do. They're pretty damn wealthy. I don't know if until the last few years, until Princess Charlotte was born, I suspect that all the money and wealth and fortune and land that his family owned was passed down through males. And what happens with those particular titles and so on? I assume there's titles in his family, maybe not, but certainly he'll be friends with titled people. That it would only be passed down to the male relative, and that at no point could a woman transition into being male to inherit. So Mr. Privilege here, McVitie's biscuit man, his class of people have always benefited from the loophole that was created when this whole bullshit GRA, Gender Recognition Act, actually was created and put into law. So his class of people have never had to follow this when it came to the most important thing for all of them, which is status and wealth.
Really sort of peculiar way. And then I saw your TikTok
Yeah.
that you did, which was
A man crying and wailing about the Supreme Court.
Posting that. I think like it was just my
Don't post crying videos, anyone ever. If you start crying in a video because you're upset, that's very different. But to go live in the middle of, oh, I'm crying, it's a terrible, terrible look.
I was actually going to an event and I was on the tube and I saw the ruling because I knew it was happening, but I didn't know. We obviously were waiting for the outcome. As my other friend who was trans, we just both were kind of just in shock. And then I got, you almost get more sad because you have to put on like a brave face. Like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Like, and I got to the toilet and I was like, no, I literally just burst out crying. And the video actually was I was explaining on my private story what was happening. And then I started like, obviously I got quite upset. And I think with this whole situation, when I thing happened, I did a big like 5-minute video explaining. I wasn't emotional on it. I was explaining like statistically what's happening, what this means and whatever. And I got ridiculed anyway. So I was like, I actually don't have any words to like describe how I'm feeling because I'm so fed up of this situation. And it's quite nearly 20 million views, which is like ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You post a video of basically you just looking incredibly emotional.
Yeah.
And it was just writing across the screen, just explaining what you were feeling. And I saw it because obviously we follow each other and we know each other, but also it was trending #1.
Yeah, which is scary.
It is scary.
Yeah.
It's scary because what happens is, I suppose, for you, Belle, is then people look to you as a spokesperson, and that's like a lot of pressure that maybe you do or don't want.
Yeah, I think to be fair, since a young age, I was one of the first sort of trans people on TikTok in the UK, to a certain degree. So that's what I found because I got.
So this is about his dad now. We're on to the bit about his dad, which I think is really, really telling.
Like school was really rough, and then I left school, and then started social media, and then I'm only 20. I'm only 21, so it's like I only left school like 4.
Where did you grow up, Belle?
I grew up in Leighton Buzzard. They got Buckinghamshire. I have to say that because it's close to Milton Keynes, and I tell people Milton Keynes, and they all give me like the dirtiest looks. I'm actually not from Milton Keynes. I grew up in like
Together?
Yeah, my parents were together till I was 13, and then they divorced. Yeah, well, I was like transitioning at the time, so like my parents, they were going to stay together till I was 18, and then my dad, love him to pieces now, but when I was younger, he found it really hard, and me being trans. So, just I think it's a big shock. Still love someone so much, but obviously he's grown up. My dad's like he loves cricket. Cricket's like not the most manly sport. Like, sorry if you play cricket. I'm sure you're
loves
great.
cricket.
Yeah.
So there's an undercurrent here of his dad finding it all quite difficult, and I would imagine there's other stuff before that. Like that seems quite weighty, what he's saying here, and he's glossing over it. I don't want to put 2 and 2 together, but I'm sure we all can. I don't think it would be my place to suggest that his dad was found having a very camp son difficult, but he's talking about man's man, and he had come out as, so he'd called himself gay before that. So if he's transitioning at 13, if he's, I mean, is that puberty blockers? Is this why he doesn't really have any chance of any meaningful relationships? Because he also had puberty blockers. God.
Yeah, don't let that, like, no toxic masculinity, but it's not exactly like, whoa. So I think for him it wasn't a shock because I think the closet was glass. It was still a big thing for him to process. I think seeing his son slowly become more feminine and wearing makeup, like he found it really hard. Just he knew that for me to sort of become who I wanted to be, he had to sort of take a step away, which meant they were going to divorce anyway.
So in order for him, I mean, Jesus, what a mess. So in order for him, Belle, to woman, his dad needed to take a step back. I mean, that's quite a weighty thing that sounds too much for a 13-year-old. I mean, that's terrible. Just terrible. That you have that basically your parents splitting up is actually your fault. Like, sounds like it literally is his fault. I don't know how else to put that, but it's terrible.
They weren't very happy. But they were going to do it after sort of leather. But that was sort of the timing it ended up being, which I had to do with that. And then also, like, obviously school, which was
horrendous. Were you an only child?
Yeah. Do I give off only child energy?
I don't think you do, actually. That's what
So he also talks about, and let me just, let's skip on. He talks about school. So bearing in mind that would have gone to the doctors, would have gone to the GP, and would have transitioned, or rather been mutilated, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, whatever it is. And this is a kid who struggled with friendships from age 5, like was bullied.
Like 5-10 years to like fully start to good.
Explain that more to me.
Because, well, first of all, especially when you're so young, you have to like wait to get on hormones, and you have to like it properly start to like you see a difference. And
do you see, it's all like you see a difference. You see a difference. So the goal for these kids is to look more like the opposite sex. That's it. And it's there's something so Instagram about all of this. TikTok, Instagram, loves, but what doesn't happen when your penis and testicles are removed is you don't actually have a vagina. You don't have a penis that feels like a penis. You don't have a body that feels like a body. Like it's so dystopian and disturbing.
Then you have to get this out. Like I've had so much since I last was, I'll get like obviously or done, or their boobs done, or like it depends on the all them processes done. It takes a long time, so you a long time to feel like actually like a woman, if that makes sense.
Can you imagine, in order to feeling that you claim that you feel like that you are, you have to have numerous surgeries? Kind of betrays the whole idea that they already feel like women, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just like, this is when people slag off like Gina Mulvaney, for example, who like shared her transition online from day one to however many now. And people were like, well, she doesn't look like a woman. Like when she was in like day 200, like, well, she's transitioned from a man to a woman. Like you're not going to look just like dull in like, that's terminology that you might not. Fish is like
having a vagina that smells of fish, and so that's what women are called. You know, cis women. It's not misogynistic though. There's no misogyny in that at all. You know, talking about women's genitals smelling of fish, and then calling us fish, and then calling men dolls.
Fish, like she looks like a cis woman, and dull is like what trans girls are called. I can't believe I'm having to explain that to you. That's so funny. I said fish doll, and he was like,
yeah, I was just still smiling at you.
Fish, yeah, dull, yuck. Because also, if you transition in like your 30s, you spent the last thing a man. Like it's going to take a long time.
You'll spend the being a man as well.
Time to, if you decided tomorrow that you're trans,
yeah,
for you to look and act and sound how you want to be. And
see, look, sound, look, act, sound. That's how you want to be. look, act, sound, not who you are. I mean, this is just such a perfect description of what trans is. Look, act, sound,
and act like how you want to be and look how you want to be. It takes ages. It's not just going to like happen overnight. So I think this is what worries me. It's going to discourage people to come out with this whole like law situation. Because, like, I didn't use the female room until I was like 17, probably. Because if I went out and I knew that I wasn't going to pass, I just would like pat on, like, wear boy clothes. Like, I wouldn't like, because you just.
Oh my God, that's so sad. Yeah. Yeah, I just at that time probably on a yacht or something. That's so sad. Fancy not using women's spaces when you like would make women frightened. It's so terrible for you.
Also, I was always like, I didn't want the stress of that happening.
Of course you wouldn't.
Yeah.
That you started transitioning when you were 13, right?
Yeah.
And so then that's this sort of process that you have to go through. Again, being naive, is it expensive? Can you use the NHS? Do you ever work?
So with the whole situation with the NHS now, it's different. Like, you can be waiting for like 7 years to get your first appointment to go on hormones. So most people go private because it's, I mean, who's waiting 7 years of your life?
There's a big thing. I saw a thing online where a doctor was asked about transitioning and doing sort of sex changes and things like that on the NHS, and he said it's a really beautiful thing because you can't understand the mental damage that is happening to women and men who don't have the ability to transition, and the suicide rate is so high.
Not true. Not true. Totally not true. Very dangerous. Not true.
It's so bad.
Actually, would you rather someone take their own life than actually feel comfortable in their own skin?
And also, because now the government are telling GPs to not, if I went to the GP and said, can I get a blood test? Because I go private for my hormones, they're allowed to say no. Like, they're
because it's unnecessary. Yes.
allowed to be, because it basically, the government are condoning people transitioning really. A doctor that you're on about said that to basically help us with our transition. A lot of trans women are getting their hormones to them, which also, if you've had the surgery, that's really not good, because obviously you don't have any way of producing.
Skipping on.
Are you good at accepting love?
No.
Not at all.
Absolutely not.
I think this is really sad at 21 years old, thinking it's not going to happen. You're not going to find someone. I think this would be the case if I just very quickly, let me just show you this, because these are quite good angles, but this is actually what he. TikTok likes that. Maybe it knows. So that's what he looks like.
But I just, my brain's not used to it. But it's just like, I don't know. I never talk about this. It's crazy for me.
Have you ever been in love?
No. Definitely like platonic love, but not, I wouldn't say like in love. I think it's so hard dating as a trans woman, but it is really difficult.
Explain that to me.
Well, I think especially with everything going on, but aside from,
well, gay men don't want to date a man that looks like a woman, right? Straight men don't date men. So I mean, look, he's actually bigger than Jamie's. I'm trying not to be mean, because I think he's a very vulnerable, lied to man. But it's downhill from here. And actually, I think he'll end up being more angry and more hateful and more woman hating. I think that's the trajectory often of these men.
From that, I think like a lot of men, it's still really shunned upon to date a trans woman. I think people still think you're gay, or think that like you're this or that. And, you know, a lot of guys like are happy to like have a one night stand.
I don't know why we have gone dodgy. Let me
Completely.
Like with people that comment, it's like, if I like transition tomorrow, you're still going to think I'm a weirdo. So like, so detransition tomorrow, you're going to still think I'm odd. So I can't win. So there's no point in having a conversation with you. I was meant to go on this news thing and debate with someone. And I was like, I'm not debating with someone. I have no words for someone that thinks I'm a man. Like, what am I meant to say? Like, I'm not going to argue with you over my existence. I'm here. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, oh, like, if you can't respect me as a woman, there's no need for us to have a conversation.
Right. And you're not a woman, so that wouldn't happen.
In my opinion. So yeah, I think it's just listening to like someone that really values you and you trust them, listen to their opinions, not to random Stacey down the road.
You're so right. Can I ask you some sort of big questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Not that they've been small already.
Yeah.
One that how do you personally define the difference between sex and gender?
So sex is this is what's interesting is
so this will be something he will have read or been told or heard somebody else say, and it's frankly insane.
Sex, people think it's male or female, but it's actually intersex, which is I think there's 40 or 50 variations. So a lot of people aren't like, sex isn't, it's complicated. It's
most
not just
people, overwhelmingly, most people are XX or XY, Belle. Most people. Like, you could probably live a whole lifetime and you won't actually meet somebody who is intersex.
One or other thing. Like, it's not a binary thing. So gender is how you identify, and it's how you express yourself, and it's like what you feel most comfortable in. So, you know, so I am transgender, so I change genders. Like, you can't change sexes. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
But this whole situation with the bathroom situation, people saying like, well, biological women, but a lot of women, if you look at women in general, you have women that are about 5 years ago, again, don't quote me, about 5 years ago, English, about 5 years ago, there was a study. If you look at a woman who is like 6'2", flat chest, male, like masculine jaw, or like you have women that are 5 foot and curvy and, you know, whatever, their chromosomes will probably be a bit different. It's a spectrum.
Yeah,
it's
so
a range.
if you're a tall woman and you don't have massive breasts, you probably are intersex. You have different chromosomes than women with large breasts who've got a waist. You heard it here first. I suspect he genuinely believes this. He genuinely believes that women who have broader shoulders or are taller, he genuinely believes have a different chromosome makeup than short women. He thinks that that's what makes the difference with women.
Now is what I believe is like scientists are starting to discover. So, and a lot of
they're not. That's not true at all. Just weird. Not true.
people are intersex. So when it comes to the whole like biological argument, when it comes to bathrooms, you're excluding a big group of people because a lot of people don't fall into that.
Yeah, they do. Everybody, most people, like even the people that don't do. So yeah, weird. But yeah, you're totally wrong.
But yeah, so sex and gender are different, and gender is how you identify.
And they're also, you know, thinking on that, there are sort of extreme people who believe that trans women now shouldn't be in female
so extreme,
space.
Jamie. So extreme. Wow. Fancy not wanting men in women-only spaces. God, terrible.
What do you feel about that?
With the whole like argument when it comes to trans women, I think a lot of them haven't met a trans woman.
I have, yeah, I have. That's one of the main reasons I don't want any of you in our spaces, because I've met you and you're men, so yeah.
And people always do it on the basis of protecting women, but you have nothing to protect them from.
We do, men.
And
you.
Also, with this whole like new law and stuff, how's your life changed? Because I could ask any woman in this room, and I'm sure they still feel as unsafe.
No, we now feel like if we go to certain places where they were letting men in who called themselves women, that we can now insist and say that the law is very clear that you can't let those men in. In fact, we have been saying it even before that, but now some women who needed that judgment, and some places of work that needed that judgment, and some hospitals that needed that judgment, and police forces that needed that judgment, and a whole spectrum of people, like genuine spectrum of people who needed something in law to say, look, you cannot let those men in. They now are enforcing that law. So that's how it's changed for women, substantially changed for women.
Safe, walking home at night. Nothing's changed. Like, this hasn't made anything better. And like, trans women aren't the problem, it's men.
Yeah, but you are men. So that's why you are the problem.
Oh, shock horror. Like, it's not like, I don't see any of these women at like women's marches.
Yeah, loads of the women actually have been involved in different sort of causes for a really long time. I'm not one of them, but loads of the women do lots in lots of different aspects of kind of protecting women. Some of them will have even been part of like original movements of protecting women.
Or any of these men, like, you know, calling out their friend when their friends are sexist, or like have.
This is just totally made up, isn't it? Because he has no. What are you talking about?
Done something to a woman. Like, it's really interesting when people pick and choose their battles.
Yeah, that often people do pick and choose their battles. It's often what we all do. Otherwise, we'd just be fighting everything all the time. So it's quite common just to pick and choose your battles.
And, you know, with this whole situation, people saying how it's not going to affect women. Like, if I get stopped by a police officer or like public transport, I will now be strip searched by a man.
Yeah. Because women at work have the right to their dignity not being subjected to searching men. So what you're suggesting is you would like to infringe upon the rights of women at work, like police officers or whoever at work, and force your male body upon them. Like, that's what you want. You don't want those women to not have to search your body.
Which is crazy. Look at situations like Sarah Everard, obviously, who was murdered by a police officer because she trusted him. Like, police have like, I think it's like 1,100 like cases like sexual misconduct a year or something like that.
That is true. Let's see where this logic leads, because I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit stupid.
Against them. Do you really trust the police that they're not going to see a woman that they fancy on the train, strip search her, which they can do now, and claim that they thought that she was trans?
Oh, yeah. That seems like a really likely scenario. I mean, maybe. Do we think that bad men will use loopholes? Yes. Yeah, that's why men who call themselves women have been using women-only spaces, because bad men who don't respect women's boundaries will use whatever they can to assault women.
And then, but in the eyes of the law, be fine, because legally, oh, I thought she was trans.
Yeah, that is very likely to happen, that a police officer will say, I think that this person is trans, and then search a woman. It's really likely.
Because also, like, if I walk down the street, I mean, here in comes the comments saying, like, oh, I could tell. But, like, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. So it's a really dangerous game. And also now, men can claim they're trans men and go into women's spaces.
Well, no, because women can tell. That's why you don't pass, because women can tell. That's why when we're looking at you and Jamie, we know that you're both men.
And go into the female toilet. So if you were worried about me coming into the toilets before, you've got a bigger issue coming your way.
So just so, again, this is my naivety. So they haven't changed the law. So trans men can go into...
Well, they're saying you have to go into the toilets that you were biologically. So these trans men
why didn't I not even think that through clearly?
These trans men who were women when they obviously transitioned from female to male.
Wow, yeah, wow.
Who have had surgeries, who have also been on hormones since they were God knows how old. Like, you know, you might have a guy with a full beard, looks like you, but is trans, now technically has to use the female's bathroom.
So, as a trans woman, do you feel unsafe?
I think I do, but I know I have it a lot better than other trans women. I'm more concerned about, and I'm more here to talk about kids that are just transitioning and how scared they must be compared to me. Because it's not about me, really. It's about all these kids that don't pass, or all these people that have just transitioned that now can't use the toilet and now are going to be scared walking out and about. Because you have the government saying that they're not the gender that they identify with. And that is scary because it's just going to like increase hate crime. In school, when I was younger, I had, luckily, I mean, the situation with trans people was a lot better than it is now. And I always knew that in the eyes of the law, I had somewhat protection. And, you know, technically, the higher ups saw me as a woman. So, like,
No, you were wrong to ever be told that you could use women's spaces.
these people just being twats. But I knew that, like, legally and stuff, I could still get to a certain level as a woman. So now that's out the window, and you have the government basically shitting on trans people. So then what narrative does that send to kids, and what narrative does that send to?
That trans is not real. It's just behaviors and appearance. That's it. That's all that trans is. Earlier, and I missed it, but he talked about he didn't really know what trans was when he was younger, but he knew that he liked girls. You know, he liked girly things. He liked hanging out with girls. He liked certain toys and wearing certain clothes. And he tries to justify that, you know, he didn't really understand. But I would say that's all it is. That's all it is. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. Anyway, I just thought he was a really good example of exactly what trans is and who these kids are and what we've done to them. And for him, look, you might find him annoying. I think he's probably quite irritating. I think he's probably always been a bit irritating. I think he had a tough time and he's found something, like he talks about online community. I think he's a victim of this. And for him, he grew up in a time where we said to flamboyant gay boys, hey, there's an answer. There's an answer. There's something else that you can be besides a gay boy who may or may not have experienced homophobia in your own home, internalized homophobia at school. You know, maybe you weren't accepted because you were a particularly flamboyant boy and that wasn't okay. And then online, suddenly something offered you an answer to this, a bit of a get out, where everybody was telling you were stunning and brave, wonderful and insightful, and watching your videos and all the other things that for you replaced genuine human connection and friendships. And you found this other thing where you could get some of whatever it was that you were looking for. And I actually think that he is a total victim of this. And I feel nothing but compassion. But I would like to say to him that you may not use women-only spaces. And I hope that you haven't done so much to your body and face that there is no coming back. Because life as a gay man in a fulfilling, substantial, meaningful relationship, I promise you, will be so much better than the life at the moment that you've been promised that you're going to have, that I can tell you won't. You're never going to get to that point where you genuinely feel like you are a woman. You're not. And the reason you're not going to get there is because you won't ever be one. And it's very, very sad. It's very, very, very sad. Look, if you can talk about these things and feel a modicum of compassion for these victims, then I promise we will win. If you can keep speaking the truth, even though sometimes it feels like you're being quite hurtful, but the truth is always the best policy, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Well, because I never lose.
We stand on the edge of a whisper, our voices trapped deep and so low, but the words now rise like the oceans and the sadness that only we know. Woman, not adult human female, not hard to define, but they twist and turn, they blur the line. Women's dignity discarded, our rage begins to build a tidal wave they can't conceive. Let women speak, let the truth ring clear. We've been shouting, but they refuse to hear. Breaking the silence, breaking the spell. We are the women, we're raising hell. They've stolen our language, they've taken our rights, but we'll never give up or stop this fight. This memory of suffering will leave a bruise, but women, just remember we never lose. No, 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 no more bending low. Our no is so loud, our courage grows. Let women speak, let the truth ring clear. We've been shouting, but they refuse to hear. Breaking the silence, breaking the spell. We are the women, we're raising hell. Her voice shakes, her hands tremble, and she's so scared. The years of silence have put her there, but the words fill the ether, hour by hour, and as her voice rises, she finds her power. At the top of her lungs, she screams, she's a man, this is our space.